everyone, welcome to Morning Matcha. Today I'm here with Lauren Goldfaden, who's a co-founder of Goldfaden MD. Goldfaden is the first dermatologist-tested natural skincare line.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to finally meet you.
I know. I cannot believe that we've gone this long without meeting.
I know. I've heard so much about you, and it's nice to hang out and be here today.
Pleasure is all mine.
I'm so excited to learn more about Goldfaden.
Yes.
I know that we've used the products, but I just want to know more about just the vision behind it. And I was just telling you, but I think it's so amazing that it's the first dermatologist tested and approved line. And I think it's crazy that it took until, well, when did it start?
Oh my gosh. Well, my father-in-law, who's really the visionary behind the product line, has been a practicing dermatologist for almost 50 years, which is really sort of crazy because dermatology is a relatively new medical practice. When he first started, it was the practice itself was really concentrated on skin cancers and mole removals, and it really wasn't where it is today. And where it is today is very cosmetic driven. And so he sort of the industry shifted back in the 1980s, and it was with the introduction of microdermabrasion. And when microdermabrasion first came out, it was like the treatment that everyone was flocking to go see their dermatologist for.
Wow.
But what was happening when it first came out was they were not sanitizing the machines properly. So essentially what was happening was I was going to get a microdermabrasion treatment, and let's say, Nikki, you were coming in after me, you were essentially getting like the dead skin and the bacteria and the oil and the grease and the dirt that I had. And
that's disgusting. You really want to be like the first appointment of the day.
Completely. It was, and so people had this visceral reaction. And what was interesting during that time in the 80s, and I'm getting to a point with the story, but my father-in-law had been practicing at this point for about 25 years. And aside from practicing dermatology in his practice, he had been educating students at the University of Miami on topical active treatments and sort of how to properly achieve healthy looking skin. And he was also doing a ton of research on natural actives and how they were effective on the skin. And if you think about back in the 80s, the accessibility to products was really sparse. You had department stores that had Lancome and Estee Lauder, and then you had prescriptions, and there really was nothing in between. And so what happened was he saw this need for his patients coming in to see him that had nothing to practice and obtain healthy looking skin at home. And given the number of years that he had researched and published all of these articles that really discovered the benefits of topical natural actives, he started doing some concocting himself, and it started in the kitchen sink, literally.
Oh my gosh.
And eventually moved to the lab, thank goodness. But he had literally was just concocting different ingredients together that were really formulated to mimic the in-office treatments that he was performing out of his office, but also, globally what was happening in dermatology. And what was so interesting about these products is that it utilized high-performance, result-driven, ideations that only were formulated with clean natural actives. And so there weren't harsh chemicals or parabens and mineral oils and sort of a certain list of substandards in which he felt like we don't need to be formulating with these things because our skin, needs to be absorbing the treatment products. And it was really sort of a mirror into also how he was treating his patients, in the sense that, in order for you to achieve X, it's about the use of topical treatments. It's about a lifestyle choice. It's about sleeping properly. It's about the foods that you eat. And so there really was sort of the story with the products that he was making out of his office. And he had about 6 SKUs that he was making that were literally being put into lab samples, and he was slapping a sticker on them and writing the prescription to his patients for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And they were exclusive to his patients. And what was happening was he had thousands and thousands of people that were coming to see him, yes, for his services, but what he saw an influx was people coming to replenish on their products. And it was really my husband that came in and about 15 years ago and said, Dad, we have got to do something with these products. It's so unique, because if you look at the beauty category as a whole, the market really exists in the natural form. And then you have sort of these high performance facial expert, dermatologist, plastic surgeon. And then there's everything in between, but there was not anything and or products or a brand that was really bridging together the gap between the two. And what I mean by that is consumers that first and foremost wanted efficacy and wanted efficacious products, but they also wanted to use products that were clean and without chemicals and parabens, things that, we're hearing so many negative side effects on. And so we started doing some of the branding and launched the brand in 2013. And so, yes, we were the first dermatologist developed natural skincare brand in the industry. And I think when we first launched, people thought we were sort of crazy. Like, okay, the natural product, category hasn't worked. How are you going to justify this? Consumers are not, they're savvy and they don't feel like it's working. And so we really had to modernize what natural was and also communicate the efficacy story, which is really our primary vision. And we just so happen to be clean at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I have family members who use Obagi and I'm like, but there's so much stuff in there.
Yes.
And they're like, well, it works for us or whatever the case. But I think something like Goldfaden, it really does meet them, like merge both the natural and the, like you said, it actually works. Efficacious.
Efficacious.
Yeah. And it just merges it together, and it's the best of both worlds. And I think it's so important, especially as our skin ages. We need more, we want more. And right now it's all about like glowing skin, and it's nice to have. So he started with microdermabrasion.
Yeah. We have our best selling product is our Doctor Scrub. And what makes this product so unique is that we utilize perfectly round ruby crystals. And these are actually the same crystals that he uses in his in-office dermabrasion treatment.
Wow.
And this was the first product he ever created. And what is truly unique about it is that it's multidimensional. So on one hand, you have the active physical exfoliating beads, but then he mixes it with hydrating emollients and nutrients and antioxidants. So it almost, at first glance, it looks creamy and rich, and it becomes your exfoliating / hydrating mask in one. And I think, this product is really indicative to the way that he formulates, in the sense that his vision is really about the realignment and balance of the skin, because, for whatever product we're going to use, we sometimes, I think as consumers, we overstrip and overuse, and ultimately our skin needs to be at a balanced state.
Yeah.
And so this is a hero product really in that form, because it has multidimensional benefits. And then after first use, your skin we call it the Goldfaden glow. It's glowing and it's hydrated, it's retexturized. So you have this sort of immediate result to the product as well.
Yeah, without being stripped. Because like, I'm sure you've heard everyone's talking about like the skin biome right now, and it really is so important to have the good and bacteria balanced, just like in our gut.
It's the same thing. And this is, so much to the point of that balance, right? In order to really obtain healthy looking skin, it's a full pizza approach. And in terms of like the pie chart, it's sleeping, it's drinking enough water, it's exercising, it's what you're intaking in terms of your food, and it's also what you're using topically. And if we're over abusing in one realm, right, nothing is sort of at its equilibrium balance. So so it goes into that in the formulations as well.
So 2013 was when Goldfaden became like a real commercial brand, right? or you guys launched it.
Yes.
So when did you get involved and when did you meet your husband?
Oh,
I
my
want to hear
goodness.
that story.
So my husband and I, we've been together for 15 years, married for 8. And I think it was our second or third date. He handed me this jar and he said, I'm thinking about starting a company, and it's a skincare company. And this is one of the products that we've been creating. My father's been making out of his office, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. And living in Miami, it's a very balmy climate, super humid.
Yeah.
And I always struggled with, oily complexion, and I would break out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the product that he handed me was this scrub, and it completely changed my skin. I actually ended up going to see his dad, my now father-in-law, as my dermatologist. And, it's funny. I now look back at it and I'm like, I fell in love with the scrub. I fell in love with my husband, and that was it. And my background, I was in advertising at the time, and I was working on, huge global brands. And my first sort of dip into the beauty industry was with Method, which is an all natural cleaning and laundry company.
Mm-hmm.
And my team was on the launch team when we launched Method into Target originally.
Wow.
And so I had this sort of insight. It was really the first, or it wasn't really the first, but it was, I think 7th generation was out at the time, but it really was the first. Like, they really disrupted the industry in terms of cleaning products or natural.
And their branding
was
so good.
amazing,
yeah.
and it was elevated and it was modern, and people felt cool that they had this teardrop, sort of package on their sink. And so I understood. I understood sort of the concept behind it. And I had worked still in advertising for a long time. And then my husband said to me, please come work with us. Help us develop this brand. We want to launch this into retail. And so I've been working with them for about 11 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so awesome that it's a family affair.
It is a total family affair.
And then you said your sister-in-law is also a part of it.
My father-in-law is still involved to this day. He does all of our research and formulation piece of it. He's in South Florida. And he works with our chemist who's also in South Florida. So it's perfect. And my sister-in-law is in New York, and my husband and I are out here in LA, and our team has obviously expanded and grown, and we have, bodies all over the world at this point. But, so it's great. I love working with family. We all share in the same drive and vision, and, we're able to consistently keep our DNA intact, which is I think something that's really unique in terms of working with family.
Mm-hmm. So what products did you launch with? You said originally, like in his office, he had 6 SKUs, right?
Yes. We launched with 7 SKUs, and now we have 22, including a couple of kits. So
that's incredible.
The collection has grown quite a bit, but all of the entire range really reflects the main reasons that men and women go to see their skin expert, I now say, whether it be a dermatologist or plastic surgeon or facialist. And it ranges then, between dull, lackluster looking skin to fine lines and wrinkles and acne and discoloration and everything in between. But when we launched with 7 SKUs, and it was really a tight assortment and reflected, I would say, more of a daily regimen. So it was an exfoliator, a cleanser, a serum, a couple different moisturizers, and an eye cream.
Mm-hmm. And what do you use?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's such a loaded question. To be perfectly honest with you, my bathroom looks like a laboratory. I would say that I am never consistently using one thing, and it's a combination of the first is my skin never feels the same every morning.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm either dry or I'm breaking out, or I don't know. There's something
and you're traveling
and I'm
a lot,
traveling a lot,
it's
and
always
so my
different,
skin is sort of always in flux. But also, I try everything from other brands. But we're also testing all the time different products, and we have to test them and before they become approved, and we put them on a whole testing panel. And so I'm constantly trying different things, but I would tell you that the product that I never, ever, ever lose out of my regimen is the scrub. It's like my saving grace. I feel like it's the only thing that effectively cleans my skin and gets my skin sort of reset. And that's my number one.
That's awesome. I need to try it.
I brought you one today. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes.
I know that you guys have that oil.
Yes.
And it looks amazing. And I've heard wonderful things about it. I have friends that use it. And I just want to ask you, because I love using oil on my skin. And I think a lot of people are still afraid of using oil.
Yes.
So what have you found with just like getting people on board?
Well,
with
you're
the oil?
speaking my language.
Yeah.
And as someone that has oily combination skin to begin with, I think when oils first came out, which is new. I mean,
it's so new.
It's within the last 5 years, it was a real groundbreaking moment in the skincare industry because we've been told for so long that oils can clog pores. That was sort of the ideation behind oils. And oils now are like shopping for your serum. You know, it's dependent on your skin type and your concern. But I think the biggest discovery with oils is that oil actually mitigates oil production in the skin, and it rebalances your oil production. So with someone with oily combination skin, it actually balances and controls the oil production.
That makes sense.
Versus creating more. And oils don't clog pores. I mean, you can have non-comedogenic oils that are really effectively getting into the dermis layers of your skin to hydrate from within rather than sealing as a barrier on top of the skin, which can cause breakouts.
So it depends on what kind of oil.
Depends what kind of oil. I mean, ours in particular, we use like 13 different active cold press oils that are all African derived, and they're non-comedogenic, which means that the oils are penetrating into the dermis layers. They're not sitting on the surface. And I think when you have like silicones, for example, feel really great, but they don't penetrate into the skin. So they sit on top of the surface, which blocks anything that's coming out of your pores. That's why you have clogged pores.
Yeah, your skin can't breathe.
So when you have the non-comedogenic oils, it's actually hydrating from within. It's almost like the equivalent of taking a Bounty paper towel and soaking it in water, you know, versus, you know, a saran wrap that's just sort of covering it.
That's a really good analogy.
I try. I have to break it down, you know, so that we all understand it. So I think that's the biggest misconception of oils. And the thing that's fun about oils is that there's multiple ways to use them. You know, you can use them as your serum. You can actually mix a little bit with your moisturizer to just increase the hydration, or you can add a little bit into your foundation to add a little glow.
I love doing that.
So I think that oils have come such a long way. And now, you know, we see brands that are really built off of the premise of oils entirely, which is really exciting. And they have so many different benefits. And oils are very similar to serums in the sense that because of the compounding, you're able to use really potent actives in the highest pure form. So they become really treatment oriented as well.
What another thing about just like the skin industry in general and consumers that I love is people are so different in what their regimen is. And some people like using one thing from a bunch of different brands and they kind of concoct their own thing. Or some people are super loyal to one brand, and I love both so much because I think it's fun for people to play and see what works for them. And I'm just so curious about like how that you've seen just a consumer shift in like their approach, or just anything that pops out at you as you're like getting more into the industry.
Yeah, I think I'm going to tell you sort of my umbrella approach and my personal, I think, view on that is that it's hard. I think it used to be that you've bought your beauty products because you heard from your best friend that this was the best product, right? I mean, that's the way it started way back when. And it's not that case anymore. And I think what people are finding is just because one product works for you may not mean that it works for me as well. And that's based on, you know, your age, your concerns, your skin type. And it is interesting, you know, in Asia, the average regimen consists of 13 different steps, day and night. That means you're using 13 products. You're sitting at your sink for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Here I don't have time I'd use more than 3 products. What is it that I'm going to do? But I think the most important thing is that there are so many amazing products out there. And I think that's the most fun about the beauty industry is sort of the discovery piece of it. And there's absolutely no problem with cherry picking your favorite products from different brands. And I think the best advice and what I've learned along the way and just through education and learning through my father-in-law and other dermatologists is that have you ever used like the same shampoo and conditioner for more than 3 months? And it's like when you first use it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing shampoo. It's changed my hair. Like I love it.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the bottom of the bottle, it's sort of like, oh, my hair is not as fluffy and shiny and silky smooth. Well, it's because the product, it's like muscle memory. And when you start doing the same thing, you become immune to it and your skin is not so different. And so I like to tell people if you are going to if you fall in love and have like a total marriage with your cleanser, moisturizer, stick with that, but incorporate something new because what happens is it helps to jumpstart your skin and kickstart sort of a new treatment process. And it's really, really important. So I tend to recommend that people use the same products in their overall regimen, but can shift a little bit.
Yeah.
And looking at skin like you look at your wardrobe too. It's not like, think about how we change our wardrobe every season. Our skin is the same way. It has different needs through the different seasons.
Yeah, that's a really important point as well.
You have to just be in tune with it, I think, and what your skin needs.
And just pay attention.
Yes.
It's like movement too. You don't want to just do the same thing all the time because you want to get other muscles moving.
Completely. So I'm an advocate for change.
Yeah, I know.
And then coming back to it, you know?
You're like, okay, I'm going to just try this. And then I know I like that. So I'm going to come back. What about, you guys just launched a serum?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we it's so funny. We launched a detox, the first of our detox collection last year. And it was really an effort to speak to our congested, sort of blemish prone customers. And we call it congestion and blemish prone, not acne, because I think what has happened is there's a complex to acne and, mature women sort of think like, oh my gosh, I don't have acne. That's for teenagers. Yeah. But in reality, we all suffer from congestion and it can be hormonal. It can be environmental. It can be
stress.
Stress induced. There's so many different factors. And so we just launched our third detox gel, our third product in the detox collection called our detox gel. And what makes this product so unique is that it's super silky smooth and it contains a detox complex that we created that's a proprietary blend of different actives that are really calming and anti-inflammatory because we're utilizing salicylic acid and some treatment actives that help to combat that oil production and bacteria and dirt that gets clogged into the pores. And sometimes that can be sort of harsh on the skin. So another example of how we're utilizing sort of ingredients that are symbiotic and productive together. So this is a gel that is a safe wearable gel that helps to mitigate breakouts during the day and also banish existing blemishes, but then also has this soothing and calming complex at the same time. And it has a velvet finish. So it's super lightweight and you can use it as a serum. You can use it as a spot treatment. So it's great for hormonal breakouts, different problematic areas, but also overall acne or congestion.
And what about like all these treatments that are coming out right now, like the vampire, is that vampire facial? Yes. Is that PRP or is that different?
I think it's a different. I think that
just like everything that's coming out. And I think it's good that people are trying new things again, like to see what works for them. But I wonder to what extent, or is it good to use these products in combination with that?
It's such a good question because I think as consumers we're ignited by the excitement of some of these more popular treatments. And we sometimes lose sight of what's really important. And I I wouldn't say that I would downplay any of these amazing treatments because there's so many incredible different formalities that are happening out of offices right now. But sometimes, and what we have to remember is that there's really no great quick fix unless it's surgery or an injection. And when you commit to these treatments, one is not going to give you
that look,
the most gorgeous glowing skin as if you were, 19 years old again. And so you have to commit to them. And so it's really hard, I think, for people to go into something one time and say, this is the best thing. Cause sometimes you need to go often, but I do think treatments, even as general as just a facial, which is like, just
upkeep,
a little bit more of a deeper microdermabrasion treatment and oxygen, and maybe someone who's diligently getting your blackheads out in combination with regular, use of topical treatments and skincare products and a good safe regimen at home is really important.
Yeah. And kind of all you really need.
I think so.
Depending on what.
Yeah,
you're
depending.
Going through.
I mean, if you need, serious work in your color and discoloration of your skin, there are amazing lasers that are out there. And, I don't deter away from that, but I do think that going to the use of topical treatments that are active coupled with some maybe in-office, baseline facials is a good start, and then escalating from there. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's I always tell people like it's a marathon. It takes a little bit of time to do that. And the skin, interestingly enough, your skin cells regenerate every 28 days. And so when you commit to a treatment product, for example, you have to give that 28 days for it to cycle into your skin cycle. It's not something that's going to change overnight. And so it's hard for consumers to sit back and let the magic work.
That's so crazy. It's 28 days for both men and women?
For men and women.
Wow.
For your skin cycle. Yes.
It's like our periods.
Yes, totally. And that's why we talk about exfoliation is so important, because when you regularly exfoliate, think about your skin cycle at 28 days. It's like a snake skin under a microscope. At the end of that cycle, it's dry and it's gray and it's rigid. And when you shed away those outer layers, you have this really smooth, glowing, vibrant skin. And when you exfoliate, you take away half of that cycle. And so anything that you put on afterwards is able to penetrate deeper and more effectively than on skin that's serrated edges and dry and crinkly, because essentially you're just layering product on top of product.
That makes so much sense. When we were just talking about treatments and stuff, and I was just thinking about how people who don't have skin issues or have never really experienced something really intense, don't realize how difficult it is when you do have skin issues to face someone and go to work, go to a meeting, go on a date, and how amazing it is to create a line that can really help people fix the issues that they're having, but in a more holistic way. And to have a brand like Goldfaden that is treating it holistically from all your entire lifestyle from all angles. I think that's so important. And
people ask me what's your favorite part about your job? And it really is the feedback that we get from the customers, case in point, that talk about how it helped their self-esteem. It's really hard to face the world and whether that be, a job or meeting somebody, whatever it is, with insecurities of your skin, and to be able to help that. I mean, you're really changing the lives of so many people. And that's the best part of your job, is you're helping them live sort of the best life that they can live.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really difficult. And skin is also, it's a challenge for everybody, and it's hard work in order to get that amazing glow.
Yeah. And maintain it.
Yes.
And a lot of times people don't want to come home and wash their face or do the whole regimen. And I used to be like that, but then I don't know, at some point when you find that something is working for you and it makes you feel good, it's like eating better, I guess, then you're more likely to stick to it. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's like a habit,
Completely.
developing that habit.
It is.
Yeah.
You have to get to that point.
Because you can have all the right products and try and do it. But if you don't do it, if you don't try them, or if you don't try to go on a walk in the morning and stretch, or if you don't try and do those things, then nothing's going to change. You just have things sitting on your shelves. And I think it's the first step is to get the right things, but then it's a whole another thing to actually implement it into your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's nice to have people like you and your family like really dedicated to educating people too, not just developing products, but like really educating people that it's just
the
more
educational piece too. And you just hit it. I mean, there are so many products out there, and it is really difficult. I'm in the beauty industry, and oftentimes I'm at a store looking at products, and I'm like trying to decipher why I should be picking between these 14 different serums. And, it's hard to navigate through that, but you're right. To have the proper education behind it. And I think that's so much of what we do on a daily basis is, yes, of course we have 22 products that we sell, but ultimately our delivery is in education, and it's what we do in our wheelhouse. And I think that it's important to be unbiased in the approach to skin, because ultimately you want someone to be able to discover that for themselves with the tools and the education, knowledge, and background.
Yeah. So where do people buy Goldfaden other than online?
Okay. So we work with some incredible retailers, and we have really crafted some amazing relationships, and we are sold at Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom, specialty retailers like Space & K and Credo Beauty, which is a really exciting new natural beauty retailer.
They're here now as well. They started in New York?
They started in San Francisco, actually.
Oh, okay.
And the founders are ex-Sephora. So they have,
That's what I thought, yeah.
big wherewithal with retail background. And they are in Boston, Chicago, New York, and here in California.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we're in 8 different countries worldwide. So
people can access it anywhere
they
right
can,
now,
pretty
which
much.
Is great.
Yes. And we ship globally. So it's accessible.
What about like having questions? Is there something online that people can like reach out to someone, or is it better to go into a store? And
both. I think that we see a lot of both. I think that it's really customer preference. We have a customer service team, and we do ship out a lot of samples. And I think there is this element that people do want to try and feel and experience for themselves. I think that the customers that we deal with oftentimes are in locations that may be a little bit on the outskirts of a store that's closer to them. But so we certainly work with customers on that level. But then we also we're in 35 of the 50 states. And so we do have, a lot of accessibility for our customers to walk into a store and see the collection and try and smell and test for themselves and walk away with samples. It's a big push. And a lot of the marketing dollars that we spend are on sampling, because it's so important to try things before you commit to purchasing them. So it's something that I think is really different about our company, in the sense that we spend a lot of money and time and effort to make sure that we have a sampling assortment that's large enough for people to be able to try things before they purchase, both in store and online.
That's really cool. I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah.
So people can just go online and say, oh, I really like this. I just want a sample, and you'll send it?
Yeah, we get a lot of calls or emails about just wanting to try something. So we'll ship them out. We also ship out 3 free samples with every order.
Oh, cool.
And then we have a sample set that you can purchase and just pay for the shipping.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fun.
This was amazing.
And I'm sure we'll chat again soon. And I'm really looking forward I know that you guys have some things in the works, so I'm looking forward to what's next with Goldfaden.
Me too. Thanks so much for having me. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.